Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of My Hero, My Life. Today we're going to be talking about the Paranormal Liberation Front. And here's the thing, I'm not alone. Today I've got a special guest with us. It is the Review Cave. Say what's up.
What's up guys, Chris from the Review Cave here. Big thanks to My Hero, My Life for letting me be part of his video.
Definitely, man. Well, hey, before we get into it, make sure that you like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. And hey, also check me out on Twitter or join the discussion on Discord. There are links for that down in the description. And with that being said, let's do this. So to get started, when I say Paranormal Liberation Front, what comes to your mind?
Well, I do kind of think of the villains on the team, specifically the League of Villains that have assimilated into the Liberation Army. Now, originally, I would think it would just be some kind of thing. If I was not a My Hero fan and I heard Paranormal Liberation Front, I would think there would be like a bunch of monsters and stuff like that trying to rise up for some kind of oppressive dictatorship or something like that. But when I think of the Liberation Front in the world of My Hero Academia, I do kind of see a bunch of villains trying to rise up against the system and try and do something about their current situations, possibly even destroy the system.
Yeah, that makes sense. I get it. I mean, it is seriously this group with villains at least leading it. I don't know if you want to call everyone a villain. I know that's probably how they would be perceived in this world, but I imagine some of them don't see themselves as that. I mean, we know that there are some heroes that are a part of this. But no, that's a good point. I want to go into my next question. With everything going on out in the world right now, it might be a bit easier to empathize with the Paranormal Liberation Front. They're just a group of people tired of being told what they can and cannot do. Does the government really have the right to dictate their lives?
Well, this is also another interesting thing to talk about because, yes, it is easy to empathize with the Liberation Front because if you're being born with this kind of power, you'd want to use it as much as you can. Problem is, the only real way for you to use your powers to as much of an extent as you can is if you have a hero license. Because if you use your quirks without being regulated by the government or any real permission, or even if it is somewhat self-defense, you can get charged a fine or even arrested for using your powers illegally. And even then, if you are a hero, the only reason for you to use your powers would be if it is against someone else who is using their powers to cause trouble, hurt people, do robberies, and other sorts of crimes. Otherwise, it's the police's problem. So in Hero Society, the cons of it is that if you have your quirks regulated, you won't be able to use your powers to help someone in the heat of the moment, which is why you would have to wait for a pro hero to show up, which could end up leading to things escalating to a degree where even the heroes themselves can't do anything, especially if they don't have the right power for it. I mean, we see this at the start of My Hero Academia when Bakugo is being attacked by the sludge villain. A bunch of heroes show up and all they can do is rescue civilians and try and minimize all the damage, and they can't really do anything against the villain due to the fact that the area is in shambles and on fire, but also the fact that none of them can actually physically touch that villain. So another problem is that there could have been someone in said crowd that had a quirk that could deal with the sludge villain, but the fact that it is illegal for them to use their powers and they can only wait for a pro hero to show up, it could lead to a lot more death and casualties than initially thought. But I can also see the pros of this because let's say you are doing this in self-defense, you can in fact accidentally kill someone or brutally injure someone in the process, even if it is an innocent person, because if you don't have any real regulation of your quirk, you can see how people could use their powers to try and bully and boss people around. It is a common problem in the real world today with bullying and stuff like that, and if powers weren't regulated, in the real world, if this were to happen, you could see people using their powers to bully others and even outright kill them if they just didn't like them and if they wouldn't let their power go to their head. So while I don't believe that the government has any real right to dictate how people can use what is something that they're born with, I can see the upsides of this as well. So it's not really a discussion of whether it's right or wrong, it's more of does the pros outweigh the cons in this sort of sense.
Yeah, with everything that's going on right now, especially with the virus and stuff, I know that a lot of people's basic kind of just typical rights, I don't want to say are being taken away, but are being forfeited and simply, just being around people. Why are you forfeiting that? Because you're trying to protect yourself. But with that being said, kind of reminds me of this world of where the most basic things like being able to do something, right? And in My Hero Academia, the most basic thing is to be able to do your quirk, right? It's no different than walking or talking. And having that regulated, think about it, in today's day and age with what's going on right now, at this very moment, we're kind of being regulated, maybe self-regulated, but regulated on, where we're going, who we're with, when we're doing it, in protection. So I kind of get that. I can definitely see where there's kind of that bit of a struggle there. Now, what's really interesting is that when I think of the word liberation, I certainly do not think of villains. I think of freedom. The people of the Paranormal Liberation Front don't feel like they have freedom. Setting aside what we know about pro-heroes and villains in this show, do you think you would be on society's side, or would you fight for the cause of the Paranormal Liberation Front? I know for myself, I would probably... I don't know. It really depends, because if at this point I was already a hero, I would just stick with that. But if I wasn't a hero, it would make perfect sense for me to just jump right in and be part of the Paranormal Liberation Front. But what do you think? What side would you be on?
Honestly, right now, I don't know which side I would have taken. I mean, growing up in the world of My Hero Academia, especially around this time in the story, I would honestly want to be part of the hero side due to the fact that they can be looked up upon by other people. They can save people's lives and use their quirks without, breaking the law. But you can also make other friends, and the satisfaction of helping people does help as well. And you can also get paid for your good deeds since it is an actual job. But I do see myself siding with the villains in the Liberation Front at some point down the line, due to the fact that even as a pro hero where I could use my powers a lot more freely, there are restrictions, especially in the fact where if someone is trying to attack me with like a gun or a knife or something like that and I'm not using their quirks or they're quirkless, I have no jurisdiction to attack them or do anything, and it could lead to someone else getting hurt or injured. The classic Spider-Man scenario where you could have done something but decided not to. It's something like that, and an innocent person gets caught in the crossfire and ends up getting hurt. So yeah, I do kind of see how I would sympathize with the Liberation Front on that one aspect alone. But then again, they are taking a lot of their ideology and stuff like that to the utmost extremes, where they would even be willing to die for that cause and even try and take down and kill other pro-heroes up to this point, just so they can get their anarchy of the system and try and get real freedom for their quirks and powers. But in the world of My Hero Academia, I would honestly consider that even if I did start on either side, I would probably end up working or moving towards the middle ground of being a vigilante, where I can use my powers unregulated, hide my identity so I won't get an actual arrest, and I could actually help people without having to worry about, oh, should I use my powers here? I don't want to get fined, or something like that. Not to mention, I won't have to take things to the utmost extremes like I would when it comes to the Liberation Front, when it comes to doing what I believe in. I could just be a vigilante similar to Spider-Man, or in the Vigilantes manga, similar to Koichi the Crawler. Just go around helping people by using my quirk and fight villains and criminals on the occasion. That is honestly the ideal way of doing things and taking a side for the My Hero Academia. But either way, I feel like even in the world of My Hero Academia, if I were just born and raised in there, I feel like I could end up going either way. It depends on what my power is and how life has treated me up to that point. So I don't really know. At this point, I really just see myself going more towards the area of a vigilante.
All right, yeah, a vigilante. I wasn't really thinking about that. However, I would imagine there's probably quite a few vigilantes already a part of this movement, but hey, who knows? Anyways, with all that being said, does the end really justify the means? They're willing to go to war just to get their way. What do you think about that?
Now, this is something that has been in my mind for a while, and that's whether or not the ends justify the means when it comes to Liberation Front. That is a good question. Now, the one thing is, it's a common argument where a lot of people try and do more justifiable things like, freedom and ending war and poverty and stuff like that. But the means are very, how should I put it, questionable at best, or even downright despicable, because it could end up leading to massive deaths, massive damage to other people's property and their livelihoods. it could just upright destroy whatever they were trying to fight for. And even if they did somehow destroy the current system that they're currently living in, there is the strong possibility that the new system that they try and make will be even more flawed and fragile than the original system would be. Either that, or it would take a long time for the new system that, let's say, if it was fair, to take effect, because it would just be very difficult for everyone to get along in a world where the strongest quirks pretty much reign supreme in that regard. Not to mention, people would end up trying to take down other people for believing that they broke the law, and with newer laws, it's hard to enforce them to their fullest, especially since there are a lot of loopholes when it comes to new laws. But yeah, the ends don't really justify the means in this concept, but yeah, I do see why these things can happen and how the Liberation Front can, in fact, if they ever won, it could end up leading to even more problems in the future. But yeah, that's all I really got to say on the subject.
Yeah, obviously you're right. The end does not justify the means. I pretty much say that, I don't know if much really qualifies for the need for a war, but hey, that's a whole nother discussion. With that being said, thank you so much, man, for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure, guys, you go and check out the Review Cave. I'm gonna have a link down in the description, so make sure you go check that out. He does anime, TV, movie, and manga chapter reviews. I think he's even doing some on, My Hero Academia's current chapters. So make sure you check that out. He also has some what ifs, like what if Ben 10 was in the MCU? So make sure you don't miss out on that. Go check out his channel right now.
Thanks for having me on the channel, man. I really appreciate it. I really do enjoy your content, so I look forward to whatever new stuff you come up with.
Thanks, man. I really do appreciate it. Well, guys, make sure that you hit the subscribe. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss a video. And we will see you guys next time.